Welcome to the Gamut of Performance Podcast, Episode 12. On this episode of the podcast, I get to talk to Coach Ted Monnich. Ted is a sports psychologist that works with hockey players, specifically keepers. Coach Monnich is currently pursuing his doctorate, is a sports psychologist consultant, and has many other talents that this intro can't do justice to. So without further ado, here is Coach Ted Monnich. Thanks for being on today. I really appreciate your time. Super excited to talk to you. So let's get into it. For the listeners at home, will you just tell us a little bit about your background and kind of how you got into psychology of sport and working with hockey?
Sure. Well, I was a ice hockey player, and that developed into being an ice hockey coach, and specifically I was an ice hockey goalie, and became a professional goalie coach, and seemed to have some insight or understanding of the mental aspects of the game. And coaches started sending me athletes to work with them in this respect. I decided that I didn't want to just do it as in an amateur way. I wanted to do it more professionally, so I went back to school and got my master's degree in sport and exercise psychology, and now I'm working on my doctoral degree.
Awesome. So one of the things that I found was super interesting about you, right, is you're very multifaceted. So you spent some time, or you as an art curator and a blacksmith. Will you talk a little bit about that, or is that correct?
Actually, an art conservator.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Which means, and the blacksmithing and my metalworking and my own artistic career led into that museum career, in which I restored art for museums, and I've done that for over 35 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
At museums all over the world. So, I kind of have 4 different lives.
Okay.
That go on concurrently. And a lot of that has to do with just having diverse interests and feeling like just because I'm doing one thing, I can't do another. I can't do different things. And that diversity of activity, that diversity of interests also, it keeps life interesting.
Yeah.
And I like to think also I get to maintain sort of a balance.
Okay. Can you kind of talk about that balance? Is it difficult to be able to do all these things within whatever time frame you have, or is it kind of like they ebb and flow, right? So one day will be more of one thing, X and O. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it is an ebb and flow. Of course, we all just have limited resources. Right now, being in the middle of studying for a doctoral degree, that takes up a lot of my time. And you prioritize.
Yeah.
I've been a musician. I've an ice hockey player, a museum worker, a lot of different things, but there seems to be a vein, looking back over my life and career, one common vein that runs through a lot of these things is creativity.
Okay.
And recognizing that helps for me personally to understand the balance, but also how these things all work together.
Okay.
So in my musicianship, at the same time, I was a professional ice hockey player.
Okay.
And I realized that when I had a music practice, band practice, and we were working on a particularly difficult song, I played a stringed instrument like a guitar, and then I went to an ice hockey practice with my team afterwards. My hand performance as a goaltender was exceptional.
Oh, okay.
Better than usual.
Yeah.
And then another time I had a hockey team practice, and I went home and practiced my instrument, my music, and I'm just shredding it. And I was working with a sports psychologist at the time, and I went to her and said, what's going on?
Yeah.
She said, I want you to look up cross-task facilitation.
Okay.
And I did, and read and came to realize that a lot of my nervous system that deals with catching ice hockey pucks and reading the shot coming off of the player's stick also has to do with me playing a song that I've memorized and going from note to note on the neck of the instrument.
Okay.
One related to the other, and one even supported the other.
Okay.
So that if I did one thing before the other, the second thing was better, easier. And so my nervous system was becoming stimulated, and those tasks were being reinforced. Like riding a bicycle helps your skiing.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay?
Yeah.
But you would think, well, there's balance involved, but that's it. But actually, there's a lot more going on with your central nervous system. So, in that regard, being a musician and being an athlete, you would think, well, what does that have to do with each other? Well, it has the mind, the brain to do with it.
Yeah.
And it's finding those corollaries that is very stimulating to me, very exciting.
Okay.
And then sharing that information. So the National Hockey League actually in their online website has actually shared a few articles about working on how goalies that play guitar can perform a little better.
That's very interesting. Okay, so do you, in your work with hockey, do you kind of recommend that they pick up a instrument, or how can you facilitate that for someone that doesn't have a musical talent?
I haven't. Right now, I don't feel that asking them to begin playing a musical instrument is going to help them, because they already have the hurdles of mastery to get past with that. Need a degree of mastery to be able to experience this cross-task facilitation.
Okay.
What I do is really, I'm just observing that. But one of my areas of interest is creative outlets of ice hockey goaltenders.
Okay.
Their creative self-expression away from their sport. And I'm collecting examples that seem to be unique to this position in this sport of these individuals who tend to have an artistic expression, whether it's music. I've got a whole list of those elite athletes doing that, or if it might be a kind of visual art. One of the legends of ice hockey goaltending was a French-Canadian named Jacques Plante.
Okay.
And he was famous for painting oil portraits of.
Okay.
I've got a client who is a professional that throws pottery.
Okay.
And also sketches and studies Rembrandt.
Wow.
You don't think ice hockey player and Rembrandt.
Yeah.
But here it is. I've got other colleagues that are painters.
Okay.
So I'm seeing this creative self-expression in this position in particular. It's a unique position. It's a solo position within a team sport that requires a lot of creative thought in actually playing their position in the sport. Okay. So I'm just looking at the correlation of artistic self-expression, and is there something about the character of these athletes that tends to be more creative?
No, that's really cool. Moving on to athletes. So how many athletes do you think fail to make it to the next level with a mental versus a physical limitation?
It depends on what the next level is.
Okay.
However, the NHL team that just won the Stanley Cup is the Washington Capitals. And their goaltending coach is a man named Mitch Korn.
Okay.
And he is considered the dean of American goaltending coaches.
Okay.
And he made a statement a few years ago which said, for an NHL goalie, 99% of their game is mental.
Wow. Okay.
So they all have an expectation of a specific technical ability and physical conditioning simply to get to that level.
Yeah.
What pushes them over the top, what makes them different, what makes them more successful is their their mental toughness, their mental conditioning, and the way that they can handle and manage the stresses of their position. So for a lot of sports, a lot of positions, what it takes to get to the next level often is mental.
Okay. Interesting. So if we're talking on a general scale, right, a lot of coaches, we focus on the physical at the college level, right? So as a strength and conditioning coach, that's my job, is to focus a lot on the physical. As a sport coach, they focus a lot on the physical. How can we better serve the athletic population on a mental level? Is there anything that we can do as practitioners?
Orienting yourself to mental skills training or psychological skills training, and some of the fundamentals within that, simply realizing how to manage stress, what stress is, what nervousness represents in a game. So many of my clients ask me regularly, I've got a big game tomorrow, I'm so nervous, is something wrong? Well, no, nothing's wrong. That nervousness you feel is an indication of how much you care.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so many athletes are nervous and worried that they're going to fail. They're worried they're going to fail. They're frightened that they're going to fail. In reality, the reason they're there is because they're successful.
Okay.
They're worried they're going to fail. Well, they're simply misinterpreting these feelings of nervousness, which are an indication of how much they care.
Yeah.
Or for something that something is wrong. Well, in fact, no, nothing is wrong. In fact, this is all very normal. There's nothing abnormal about being nervous about having a big game, but you have to recognize that it's because you care.
Yeah.
Well, what do I do now? Well, it's a reminder that you have to do your homework. You have to, have a good night's sleep, have good nutrition, have a good pre-game routine, whatever your warm-up is that makes you comfortable. Go through all of this. And as soon as you start applying yourself to these things, to practicing, preparing yourself for this challenge that you're nervous about, the nervousness goes away.
Okay.
So that's a real common thing.
So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so for you as a trainer to recognize that, and you can even start to perceive anxiety through misperformance in the weight room. Okay, you're out of your routine. Something's off here. What's wrong? Well, I'm worried about the game. Well, let's talk about that. You just have a chat about that. Yeah. Sometimes just chatting about it, but also then reminding the athlete, well, it's very natural for you to be nervous because it's an indication that you care. Now, you care. Let's say you got an exam in a class. You're nervous about it. You care. Well, what do you need to do to ace that exam? Study. Start doing that, you're going to stop being nervous. Yeah. And you're probably going to perform well. You're nervous about that game? Yeah. Do your homework. Get out there. Yeah. Do the work, and immediately the nervousness will subside. And you know what? You're probably going to perform well.
Okay. So what you're talking about is a lot of preparation on the front end then, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. When we're, if it's easy, if we train harder than we have to play, then the play is play. Yeah. Okay. So often we put all of our emphasis on the game, and we actually take our foot off the gas in the practice. Yeah. Maybe not physically because the coaches are breathing down our neck, but maybe mentally. But if we approach the practice with the same mindset that we approach the big game, then number one, that mindset becomes more normalized. We get used to being in that game mindset so that it doesn't stand out as being different in the game. Yeah. And also that we start applying ourselves to the practices with the same intent that we bring to the game.
Okay. So on that same kind of point, right? So how can we induce that mindset, right? Because a lot of athletes show up physically and they'll go through the motions, right? But how can we help induce that mindset of like game-like intensity?
Yeah. It's going to be different for every individual. And it is helping them to find that place for them. Okay. We can look at it in a lot of ways. We analyze it in a lot of ways. We might look at what is there best arousal level for performance. And this is something that is different for everyone. Some people are kind of just loose and relaxed and they just perform beautifully. Other people are really pumped up and intense and they perform beautifully. If that intense individual is a little too relaxed, then they haven't reached their peak performance. If that relaxed individual gets too pumped up, then they've gone beyond their peak performance and it drops off. Okay. It's like a bell curve.
Is this kind of like inverted U theory?
Exactly. It's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And so we have to find that idea. Where's your peak performance? Now, you're talking about college athletics. These guys have had to perform to get here. So they have a sense of where to be.
Yeah.
Or how to, where that state is. Where is my best performance? So in order to succeed, they tend to know where to go already. If they're struggling to find that in the game, then we might want to talk about, there might be some other things distracting them.
Okay.
This is another big part of mental skills training, is dealing with distractions, keeping the athlete focused, really focused on the moment. I employ a lot of mindfulness training, a lot of mindfulness skills to be in the moment.
Okay.
So that distractions are not getting in the way. So distractions might get in the way of us having that razor sharp focus that we want for game day. Okay. And I'm talking about now bringing to our practices.
Yeah.
How to help them find that. That's tricky. And again, it's all very individualistic. And kind of what I'm saying with every question you're asking is, it's very individual.
Yeah.
We don't have, I've got lots of concepts.
Okay.
But I don't have a template that I apply to every athlete.
Okay.
Even with my clients, everyone is unique. So deal only with what they are working with.
Okay.
Whether it is getting stronger, whether it's conditioning, mental conditioning, or whether it is dealing with a problem and resolving that through conditioning.
Okay, so let's pull on that thread a little bit of the mindfulness, right? So how would you walk someone who is prone to anxiety, right? So what are some techniques or some methods that you may use to work on mindfulness?
Sure. There are two ways we can approach this, and I like to. Number one is we need to stabilize the current moment.
Okay.
That's what it's all about, the current moment.
Yeah.
We can then come back and start to instill good habits and practices. But right now, we need to put out the fire.
Okay.
And so if someone comes to me and says, I'm just so nervous, I'm having a problem with anxiety, chronic nervousness, and this is just really getting in the way of my performance, and I need to quiet my mind. Well, number one, congratulations. You just realized that you need to quiet your mind. There's a lot of runaway thought there.
Yeah.
There's a quote that I really love. If we don't train the mind, the brain will win. Okay. So, and what I mean by that is, well, what's in the brain that's going to win? A lot of these animal habits that are come to us genetically. Okay. Come to us in our DNA. And it's these automatic reflexes to perceived threats, and anxiety comes out of that. Whereas with our mind, we can start to recognize with mindfulness, number one, I'm having a lot of anxiety. Great. So we at least have identified that. Now, how do we gain control of this now? Well, let's give our mind a little break, a space between this anxiety and this moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to use something that we have to do. We must do this from the moment we're born to the moment we die. What is that?
Breathe.
Yes, we have to breathe. So let's use that.
Okay.
Let's focus on our breathing because we have to do it. So we're going to focus on that. And what we're going to do right now is, number one, we're going to always start out by having a nice cleansing breath. Okay. And that's where we're always going to inhale through our nose also and exhale through our mouth.
Okay.
We're going to make a habit of that. So with this cleansing breath, we're going to inhale and fill our lungs to their capacity, which we rarely do. And it's going to be nice and tight. And then we're going to hold it for a moment, and then we're going to breathe it all out through our mouth with a big whoosh. Just doing that is going to lower our blood pressure.
Okay.
Then we are simply going to inhale through our nose, count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it briefly, and then we're going to exhale through our mouth to a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. We cannot inhale through our nose and count to 4, hold it, and then exhale through our mouth and count to 4. We cannot do that and still worry.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So just doing that has created a space between this moment in our mind and that worry.
Okay.
If we have time, do it 4 times.
Yeah.
Into 4, out to 4. Always in through our nose, always out through our mouth. The reason for that is we're thinking hard. Inhale through my nose and count to 4. Exhale through my mouth and count to 4. Another exercise that's kind of funny is, okay, well, I'm always going to inhale through this nostril and hold this one, and then I'm going to exhale through this nostril and hold this one. And that takes even more thought.
Okay.
We end up sticking our finger up our nose and poking ourselves in the eye.
Yeah.
But we're just focusing on our breathing. We're focusing on something.
Okay.
Hey, we're taking ourselves away from just this wild thought.
Yeah.
And creating a space in time from the worry and our moment. And that disengages us from the discursive thought, from the anxiety, from the worry. Now we're in this moment, maybe just a moment of peace.
Okay.
At least now we know it.
Yeah.
We know it. And we know how to get ourselves here. So it's just a simple little trick of switching our focus from being in this maelstrom, this vortex of anxiety, of worry, fear, of nervousness, and now bringing our focus, just breathing.
Yeah.
So we have to do creating that space. So that's how we put the fire out in the moment.
Okay.
Then we can, if the athlete wishes to dedicate, apply some discipline then you might start a mindfulness program where we will train and practice in some meditation techniques.
Okay.
To, again, make ourselves aware of what our mind is doing, stop it, come back to our breathing, using breathing.
Yeah.
And always coming back to that, always coming back to that. This is hard.
Yeah.
It's great discipline. And we always have our mind saying, well, this is, I'm just sitting here breathing. What a waste of time. I could be doing something. No, actually, you're doing something very, very hard. And typically with my clients, I could be talking to a team. 10% of them know about it and want it right now.
Yeah.
30% kind of prairie dogging. What's that? What's this? The other 50, 60%, they're not ready to wake up from the matrix yet.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, no, that's interesting. And it's so simple. So it's wild that, more people don't know about it.
And what's going to wake up those guys? It's not going to be me. The other, that group that's not ready to wake up yet, they're going to look over at one of those 10% who are just making their mark.
Yeah.
And they're going to go to them and say, what are you doing? We go to the same practice. I do the same stuff. But we have the same body type. Why are you having such an effect? Well, man, I do these practices and, there's the difference, that mental difference. Yeah. And so that guy that's asleep, he's saying, what's going on here? And it's by observing someone else excelling.
Yeah.
He decides, I want to try that.
Yeah.
I want to wake up. So it's never me that is waking up these individuals who just aren't quite clued in yet. It's seeing someone else excel, and then they realize, I want that.
Yeah.
I want that. Then they call me. The guy says, you have to call Coach Teddy.
Yeah.
And they call me, and okay, here I am.
Yeah.
Here I am.
No, that's really, really cool. That's awesome. And so kind of taking a step, let's say take a step back, right? So how can we coaches work with younger athletes and help them to be more successful, right? So we've been talking a lot about like college and pros, right? But how can we get them when they're younger, and how can we cater to them even more?
There still is a place for mental skills training. Mm-hmm. It is always, it is going to be age specific.
Okay.
And, but still simply building awareness, creating awareness. Number one, awareness in the coaches.
Okay.
The coach has to be aware. And the coach has to, all of us as coaches, you're a coach, I'm a coach, we become aware that we're not just a game coach or a sports coach, but we're teachers.
Yeah.
We are truly teachers. We're educators. And so it's starting to, instead of working in this team education model, this is actually something that comes from the age of industry, the industrial age, where everyone learns in the same way. This is the old school model. Start doing something called student-centered learning, athlete-centered learning. We're focused on what this athlete needs to be their best. Of course, you recognize this as a strength trainer, that everyone's body is different. We need to work on this thing in this way for you to excel.
Yeah.
The same thing, perhaps with a team coach or a skills coach working with individuals, whether at the top of their career or just beginning. What does this individual need to excel? Where are their weaknesses? Even recognizing that their weaknesses are not drawbacks. Weaknesses and the awareness of them become treasures, become the keys to success.
Okay.
There was an American philosopher named Joseph Campbell, and he said, where you stumble, there is your treasure. So what I tell my athletes is that where you struggle in your position, pay very close attention to that.
Yeah.
Identify it. Take it to your skills coach and say, Coach, this is what I'm struggling with. I need to get better at it. Help me. Coach is going to be delighted. Great. There's something to work on. We work on this weakness. We work on this weakness until we become strong with that. We eliminate that weakness. When we eliminate a weakness, we become stronger and we perform better.
Yeah.
This way, a weakness is not something to be avoided.
Yeah.
Or something to be put down. It's the awareness of it, the discovery of it is a eureka moment. Here's the key to me getting better.
Yeah.
Is recognizing that. So we have to kind of start to change our perspective, our thoughts as coaches, as educators, to seek those weaknesses and not put the athlete down for them.
Yeah.
But really support them.
Okay.
We want to support them in a way that they feel comfortable pushing the envelope.
Okay.
They feel comfortable leaving their comfort zone because they can trust that the coach is there to catch me. The coach is going to help me and not punish me when I try harder and fail.
Yeah, yeah.
Best way to learn. The best way to learn.
That's great.
So I know I'm kind of sharing big philosophical concepts here when you're asking a very specific question.
No, that's
but
good.
I think this applies to all of it.
Yeah, and I really love these answers, because like you said, we can apply it to bigger scale things. So this is perfect, So keep going with what you got. So kind of moving forward, right? We talked a little bit about mental conditioning, and in a lot of the sport realm, right, there is the idea of mental toughness and training mental toughness, but a lot of coaches, sport coaches and strength coaches, we don't really know how we're defining it, how we're tracking it. So what does that mean to you? And what can we do to better serve mental toughness, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I don't think mental toughness, it's a descriptor.
Okay.
But it's something that just about cannot be quantified.
Okay.
Number one, we're all unique individuals. And it can be qualified. But to me, mental toughness means the same thing as being mentally conditioned.
Okay.
Same thing. I can manage the situation. So I'll tell you a very quick very quick story.
Okay.
One of my professional athlete clients, I was at his game. He had a fabulous game, won the game, performed excellently. We went out to dinner afterwards. He asked me, how did I look? And I said, you look great. But why do you ask? He said, I felt terrible. I said, you felt terrible? Why? He said, before I came to the arena, I had a fight with my girlfriend. I said, you did? Wow, worst thing that could happen. He said, yeah, all these emotions, anger, sadness, hurt feelings, worried about her, what's going to happen, all of this stuff, all stirred up. I said, well, you played beautifully. What did you do? He said, I kept applying these breathing techniques that we've worked on, all the mindfulness, I kept applying those. Whenever the feelings would come up, I'd identify them and I'd work on that. And I just had to battle with it the whole game. I'm just battling with it. He said, it felt terrible. And I said, well, congratulations. You're mentally tough.
Wow. Okay.
You won.
Yeah.
And you played excellently. He said, you couldn't see it? I said, I couldn't see a thing. I said, congratulations. You are mentally tough.
Yeah.
And the point of this is that when we achieve this mental conditioning, when we achieve a state of mental toughness, we don't feel anything different.
Yeah.
Hey, when we're working out in the gym and we're really getting pumped, we can feel the muscles burn. We can see them grow. We can't do that with our mind. It's not going to reveal itself until we either succeed or fail.
Okay.
Yeah. But in life is not going to change, though. I'm not going to teach you these skills. You're not going to practice and learn these skills, and all of a sudden, life is unicorns and rainbows.
Okay.
Life is still going to be what it is.
Yeah.
There's still going to be disappointments. There's still going to be arguments. Things are still not going to go the way we want them to. But now we have new skills and abilities to be able to manage the situation so that we can still get through the day successfully. And this same athlete at another game, I'm walking through the concourse and to buy a hot dog, and this beautiful young woman runs up to me and gives me a hug. And I didn't recognize her at first, but I didn't mind. And I recognized, it's this guy's fiance.
Yeah.
And she said, it's good to see you. She said, whatever you do, don't stop doing that Zen thing.
Okay.
It's never been easier to live with.
Yeah.
And this is where athletes say to me, this is really helping my sport. But it's also, life at home is getting a little easier. It's like, well, yeah, you don't have a sport mind and a home mind.
Yeah.
You have a sport brain and a home brain. We're actually changing your mind. We're actually changing the shape and size of your brain physically with these skills. These exercises are changing the shape of your brain. This has been scientifically proven.
Wow. Okay.
You're managing the source of your stress. You're managing the axis in your brain that deals with stress. You're controlling it.
Yeah.
You're controlling the release of stress hormones with this conditioning.
Okay.
So mental toughness isn't about necessarily being able to go out there and bang your head against a tree.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not that kind of toughness.
Yeah.
It's about having the ability to deal with the toughness of life.
Okay.
And not cave to it, but to be able to just push through.
Yeah. Awesome. So you're talking more about treating the person versus the athlete, which is what a lot of practitioners do. They try to attack that athlete piece, right, through physical discomfort. Whereas if we would treat the person as a whole, right, and their mind, then it would transfer more into their performance. Does that kind of
simplify? To put you, and I understand the concept, and I used to actually, as a skills coach, I used to work at camps that were they were like boot camps where coaches would scream in these athletes' faces. Some of these kids, they're high school kids, they're crying, and I'm looking at this and saying, this is too much.
Yeah.
And I asked, why are you doing this? It makes them tough. They think this is stressful. Wait till they see a game, and it's like, No, this just makes you hate the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's understand. I'm not saying to coddle and baby these individuals, but let's approach this in an evidence-based way.
Okay.
Of how the mind works with stress, challenge, and how then, once we've learned to manage the stress, how do we push beyond that for even greater peak performance?
Okay.
How do we use the fear or nervousness as a trigger to send us into flow state?
Okay.
Let's get esoteric about this.
Yeah.
Let's not worry about, beating someone up physically to make them mentally tough. I think you're just going to engender a resentment. Okay? I don't think you're going to make somebody truly toughen.
Yeah.
It's not about using a physical toughening to create a mental toughening. There are skills that convey the mental tenacity that we require for a sport. We're in a scientific age now. We don't need to get brutal about it.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. And so you touched on flow state, right? So will you just expand on that a little bit? And I mean, I know there's some research on it, but for the layperson, right? So is there any way that we can put ourselves in a better way to induce flow state or to lengthen the experience of flow state once we do reach it?
So it's very elusive, and the part of the neurobiological component of flow state is that we are under such a great challenge, let's say in a sport, such a technical and physical challenge that it exceeds normal performance, that our brain, in perceiving that greater challenge, determines that to meet the challenge with our skill level, it needs to perform. The brain needs to perform with greater creativity. But it can't do it with the usual ruts that it operates in, always thinking in the same ways. It's like getting into a rut. So the brain says, I need more energy. I need to use more of our capacity that we usually don't use. Of course, it's not saying this. This is what is going on.
Yeah.
And the place to get energy, the part of our brain that's using more than anything else, is our prefrontal cortex.
Okay.
And that is the seat of self. That is the seat of self-judgment, self-awareness, self-realization, the seat of the perception of time. This location of so much of our human experience is in our prefrontal cortex, our frontal cortex. But it uses so much energy. The brain says, I don't need all that stuff right now. I'm going to turn that off and reallocate energy and light up the rest of the brain. And this literally happens.
Okay.
When it shuts off the prefrontal cortex, a state of temporal hypofrontality, we lose our sense of self.
Okay.
We lose our sense of time.
Yeah.
The awareness of time, the awareness of self. But so in the flow state, we have no awareness of self.
Yeah.
In fact, time is slowing down, but we're not.
Yeah.
We seem to be just perfectly where we need to be at that moment, and everything is successful. And even if we find ourselves out of position in our sport and we see the situation, we're able to respond perfectly and everything goes our way.
Yeah.
We seem to be winning. We seem to be one with the ball.
Yeah.
We even seem to be one with the other players. And something's even happening there, something called group flow.
Okay.
Even this is being cultivated.
Okay.
In the world of sports. So all of this is going on. But if we say, oh, I'm in flow state, I want to stay here longer, it stops immediately. What one word in that statement made it stop?
The conscious perception. I mean,
I. In saying I have turned on my prefrontal cortex.
Okay.
Because there's the sense of self.
The sense of self, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we say I am in flow. It comes on. The prefrontal cortex comes on, and flow state shuts off. So first, how do we get there? We need to condition the mind to be used to being there. but also we have to establish triggers.
Okay.
This is all very, very complicated, very complicated, and it's part of my doctoral research.
Okay.
And what I'm looking at is conditioning the mind through using meditation to bring the mind to specific brainwave states that help facilitate flow state. So if we can condition the mind to used to being here, then what we want to do is program it with specific triggers relative to our sport. And the trigger is going to be something that makes us click over into flow state. People that do surfing, that surf the ocean on these enormous waves, like on the north shore of Hawaii, of Oahu, these 50, 60-foot waves, these guys go into flow state immediately.
Really?
Without effort. Because if they don't, in order to be in flow state, when you're in flow state, you're responding to every physical input, every motion that the wave makes to the surfboard and is transported up through our body and interpreted. All of that is in flow, and we're interpreting it in this state. And if you weren't in flow state, to get all that information, you would die.
Wow. Okay.
People that are skydiving, flow state. People that are wingsuit flying, flow state. And the trigger for all of these is fear.
Okay.
Okay. You think every time you jump out of an airplane, you're happy? There's a certain amount of your body that's saying, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And the only way to keep from dying, is to turn on the brain.
Yeah.
Get creative, ultra creative.
Yeah.
Turn off that prefrontal cortex. We don't need that.
Okay.
I don't need self right now.
Yeah.
So it is very elusive.
Yeah.
It's not easy to get there. People that do get there, they tend to say it's a somewhat spiritual experience. And through years and years in research, in the field of positive psychology, individuals, athletes that have been in the state that was previously called peak performance would always say, I just flowed. I was just like flowing. And that's where the term has come from, flow state.
Wow, that's super interesting, right? And so one of the things you touched on was positive psychology, right? And with that kind of makes me think of self-talk. And so how can we change an athlete's self-talk, right? So if they have an intrinsically negative self-talk and they're always talking down on themselves, how can we change that self-talk to a positive to maybe even help induce flow state?
Well, first, I'd worry about self-talk before I worry about the flow state. Again, the flow state is just so esoteric.
Okay. But
the self-talk is very important because whatever we say to ourselves, we plant seeds.
Okay.
If I'm saying, I'm not good, I'm not doing well, is this going to be another one of those games? I suck tonight, whatever it is. If we're planting seeds of doubt, seeds of failure, they're going to grow and sprout, and we're going to get weeds of failure as opposed to success.
Yeah.
So the thing to do with an athlete as a coach and find someone that is putting themselves down is to take them aside, perhaps schedule a session with them and just say, let's talk about, your self-talk, what you've been saying. We're planting seeds of failure here. We need to turn that around. So I want you to make a list of the things you say to yourself in a game, and maybe 4 or 5 things. And then I want you to think about what is the exact opposite of that. This I'm losing, this is going to be a failure, this is going to be a meltdown tonight. No, I'm going to step up. I'm going to make the difference. I'm not playing well. I'm going to play well.
Yeah.
It's looking for that positive opposite of negative we're saying. But we can't just say, don't say that.
Yeah.
We actually have to go through the exercise. And it's good to have the athlete write everything down because writing uses more of the mind.
Okay.
It makes more of an effect, more of an impression. An impression on the mind. So write these things down. I'm not playing well. No, I'm playing well. I'm going to play well. Positive self-talk and starting to think of oneself in this way. So we want to cultivate, just like, I'm talking about planting seeds here.
Yeah.
We want to cultivate a garden of positivity, positive self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely have to go there before we can even begin to think of flow state,
Okay.
which is so dependent
Mm-hmm.
on confidence.
Mm-hmm.
If we're having anxiety
Mm-hmm.
or thought, there's no way we're going to be able to enter flow state.
Yeah.
We just have no worry,
Yeah.
no concern, no negative thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
and to find ourselves sliding into this zone of peak performance.
That's very interesting. And so with that, right, so can that negative self-talk, can that in certain situations even drive an athlete to injure themselves? So say if they're thinking, oh, I'm going to hurt my, a lot of athletes are afraid of a tearing an ACL or something like that. So if they're constantly thinking about that, can that contribute physically and manifest itself?
I'm not going to make that much of a leap, but yes. What is going to happen is more stress is going to be generated.
Okay.
And stress is a precursor to injury.
Okay.
Whether it's psychological stress. Mm-hmm. Psychological stress. Remember I said, I talked about the brain getting larger with good practice, good mental conditioning. Mm-hmm. And the reason it's getting larger is because we're reducing the amount of stress.
Okay.
And the stress hormone, that actually causes the brain to shrink. Stress does.
Yeah.
So that's very physical, very real. But also within that, there's a physical component, but it starts down our physical chain throughout the body. We're just not performing as well. We're not performing in the best ways possible. And when all of that starts to go, you just throw one thing. Let's just talk about ankles, knees, and hips. Mess up one of those and they all go.
Yeah.
Okay? Talking your language.
Yeah.
So same thing with the body. If the mind starts to, we have too much psychological stress, mental stress, then the body's going to start to go. And we know that stress reduces the performance of our immune system.
Yeah. Okay.
So guys that are stressed start getting sick.
Yeah.
And we see this in professional sports a lot. We get deep into the season. It's a tough season. A lot of stress. Guys start getting sick.
Yeah.
Injuries follow. And so how does self-talk affect that? Well, it's setting up as a precursor for poor performance, which results in stress.
Okay.
So it's a domino effect.
Gotcha. And that makes perfect sense, right? Because everything's linked, right? So nothing is a standalone within the body. So that really does make sense. So kind of moving forward on this, right? So some of the stuff listed on your consultation website, right, that you focus on are focus and concentration. So can we just talk a little bit about, say, focus and concentration and how we might use this with, say, we have a client or a kid with an attentional disorder. How can we help better serve them?
Yeah. So I have clients that have ADHD, and they're on prescription medication for this. I have one client that I've worked with for 10 years. And, it was a struggle in the beginning, and I always had to ask his mom, is he on his medication? I'm not a clinical psychologist, and I'm also not a therapist, so can't work to try to improve this, any condition like this.
Okay.
I can try to work with it in terms of their performance.
Okay.
And this athlete I started working with when he was about 10 or 11 years old. And now he is 18 or 19 and is just got drafted or signed by an elite high-level junior team in ice hockey. And that was quite an achievement.
Yeah.
It's all him, but it's giving him the skills and applying it. In terms of focus and concentration, there are a lot of different kinds of exercises and tools we can use, and even just a sheet of paper with a series of numbers on it or letters, and just getting the athlete to find all of the same numbers on that sheet of 100 numbers and circling those in X amount of time.
Okay.
You start to sharpen what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
In the same regard, 10 years ago, at the end of my professional career,
Mm-hmm.
I was using a little electronic game
Okay.
called Flash Focus.
Mm-hmm.
It was for visual acuity training.
Yeah.
But it improved my focus and concentration.
Mm.
And so there are a lot of visual acuity
Mm-hmm.
techniques and skills that do improve focus.
Okay.
And so we're talking about something beyond psychological training.
Yeah.
But in vision training really help to improve focus. However, if we're talking about our mind wandering
Mm-hmm.
and distractions, pulling us away from what's important, let's say a failure in the last quarter,
Mm-hmm.
say we messed up, bad,
Yeah.
the other team benefited, scored a point, and we're dwelling on that and
Mm-hmm.
feeling bad about it.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, it's taking physical energy for that thought.
Yeah.
So we're not putting 100% into this moment.
Okay.
It also takes the awareness that this moment is all that exists.
Mm-hmm.
That mess up is gone.
Yeah.
What's coming in the next quarter? Not here yet. It's just a concept.
Mm-hmm.
But what's going on right now is where we need to be.
Yeah.
But we're worried about the past, or we're worried about the future, or we're worried about that argument we had with our girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
We're not present in the moment.
Yeah.
So again, how do we get present in the moment? And this is where I come back of this foundational training in mindfulness.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Using mindfulness as a foundation for mental skills training to bring us into the moment, to sharpen that focus to exactly what is going on now.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's great. So how can we use this stuff to work on motivation, or how do you attack motivation?
Okay, so two kinds of motivation, intrinsic and extrinsic.
Mm-hmm.
When extrinsically motivated,
Mm-hmm.
we are involved in the task for the goal.
Okay.
Okay? We want to win the championship.
Yeah.
When we win the championship, it's done.
Mm-hmm.
No other reason to practice, to train, to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
The opposite is intrinsic motivation.
Mm-hmm.
That is doing the task for the love of the task itself.
Okay.
Okay? So here's how I do it with my ice hockey goalie clients.
Mm-hmm.
Worst thing that can happen to you as a goalie is to get scored on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But that goal indicates a weakness. We touched on this.
Yeah, yeah.
We want to identify that weakness now, take it to our skills coach, and work on that weakness to eliminate it and get stronger there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Always we want to keep getting stronger. So almost we want to start looking for goals.
Mm-hmm.
The thing we hate most is the key to our success.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is very intrinsic.
Yeah.
Okay, this is playing to get better.
Yeah.
The wins will come.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the other thing I tell my athletes that your head coach won't like hearing is that the most important thing to a coach is the game.
Yeah.
But what I want for you to be the most important thing are your practices.
Mm.
What a game is the exam.
Yeah.
Okay? It's the exam. What don't you know?
Okay.
What aren't you good in? What are you weak in?
Mm-hmm.
And we take that information and we go back to practice and we work on that. The same thing. Yeah. Always to get better. I want your motivation to be, I want to be the best I can ever be. That's what I want. So that when you win the championship, you still recognize you could have done something better there in the second period. Yeah. So your skills coach and say, I want to work on this. And the skills coach says, but you just won the championship. And you said, yeah, I know, but I want to win the next one too. Mm. So let's work on this. And you love practices.
Yeah.
So there's the intrinsic motivation, the love of doing it.
Okay.
So you want to shift
Yeah.
from that extrinsic to the intrinsic.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always easy.
Yeah.
The thing that goes with this is a concept called mindsets.
Okay.
mindset.
Mm-hmm.
There was a psychologist, her last name is Dweck,
Mm-hmm.
and she wrote a book called Mindsets, which identifies growth mindsets and fixed mindsets.
Okay. Yeah.
A fixed mindset believes that whatever they are at this moment is all that they will ever be.
Yeah.
And if they're not good at something, they will never be good at that.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes when they do struggle at something, they will blame others for it.
Mm.
Okay, they will look for outside excuses and reasons.
Okay.
Because they truly believe, though, that they are not good.
Yeah.
They truly believe that they're not good and that they can never be good at this. So they will even avoid those things that they do not succeed at.
Mm-hmm.
A growth mindset recognizes just what I said earlier.
Yeah.
Where you stumble, there is your treasure. I can get better.
Yeah.
And I want to get better.
Mm-hmm.
So they do look for those opportunities, not only to excel, but to learn and get better. So we want to cultivate that growth mindset. The reality is that none of us is all extrinsic and all intrinsic.
Yeah.
We have a mix of both.
Yeah. Okay.
But we want to cultivate that intrinsic mindset so that the athlete is playing the game for the love of the game.
Gotcha.
To have fun. I tell my athletes, before you step out there on the field, I want you to laugh. I want you to assign someone in the locker room to tell you a corny joke every game.
Yeah.
Or else you tell that corny joke so the guys are throwing stuff at you.
Yeah.
But you step out there laughing.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to be relaxed,
Uh-huh.
you're going to be loose, you're going to be having fun.
Mm.
And you're going to be performing at your best.
Yeah.
When we're uptight, we're nervous, we're tight,
Uh-huh.
we're worried, we might even be trying to compensate or overcompensate, then we're not in the zone. We're not playing at our best. We can't get to flow.
Yeah.
When happy, relaxed,
Yeah.
that's when it clicks. That's when it comes. That's when the flow state comes to us.
Okay. No,
So that intrinsic mindset, that growth mindset, recognizing that I'm not perfect, that I'm going to keep working hard, and I'm having fun doing it.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
Okay. So say someone has a fixed mindset, right? And that mindset is fixed in, say, low self-confidence and low self-esteem, right? Is there any way that we can change that?
You can't always change someone's mindset completely.
Okay.
Sometimes this goes deeper psychologically.
Okay.
However, if someone is struggling with confidence, perhaps they were a really good athlete at the beginning of the season and something happened or their performance just dropped off, and they're struggling with performance and they're struggling with confidence, they're finding themselves in a rut. What I will say to a coach is, do not coddle this individual, but recognize that we need to build their self-efficacy.
Okay.
Self-efficacy is our belief in our ability to do a task successfully. And the biggest impact on self-efficacy is experience.
Yeah.
You can't just say to someone, well, you were good at this before, why aren't you good at it now? And they're just going to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
But what you want to do is start giving them success.
Okay.
Sometimes that means lowering the challenge for them just enough so that they start succeeding.
Okay.
And as they are experiencing success, raise the challenge level. Let them experience more success. And as they're experiencing that success, you're going to see a smile. You're going to see some of that confidence start to come back. A smile is very important for all of this.
Yeah.
Enjoyment is.
Okay.
And raise that challenge some more until you're up to par again and they're succeeding, and there's that old cockiness. You know?
Yeah.
They've got their success back. But perhaps in the process of this, they've realized that they aren't limited by what they were at their lowest. That you've just shown them, look, you've just risen above that.
Yeah.
You're not fixed as what you had become. You're actually better at it. And look, you have learned, you've succeeded. So you're teaching them a lesson about this growth mindset, about intrinsic motivation, for them to value the process.
Okay.
And hopefully then, that confidence can return.
Okay. So do you ever use, or how much do you use, like imagery and visualization with some of your clients?
Tremendously. It's an incredibly powerful skill that can be used in virtually every aspect of sport, even during rehabilitation from injury. Imagery is so powerful that it can increase physical skills.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, that sounds crazy.
Yeah, let's touch on that. Let's expand.
It really sounds crazy. Here's how you do it. I'm not going to go through a great philosophical explanation. I'm going to say this is how you do it. In our imagery. So what we're doing is creating a little movie in our mind of ourselves playing the game and succeeding. We always design our imagery with success because we're programming in whatever it is. If we program in failure and mistakes, that's what's going to come. Another name for this is mental rehearsal. So you can do this before a job interview. You can do this before you take a test. Just to get comfortable. So that when you go in there for that job interview, it's not like, oh no, I've never done this before. No, I've just practiced this and I know what I'm into now. You can do it before a date. Meeting someone new, whatever you want to have some comfort, it's the practice, it's mental rehearsal. For the most powerful visualization or imagery skills, you make a little movie of yourself competing in your sport and succeeding at it. But now typically, what sense are we using to perceive that? I'll ask you.
It's not,
we're seeing it, right?
Yeah, but does that still count if our eyes are closed? Like, that's kind of hard to, you know what I mean?
It's still imagery. Imagery. Even the name is visualization and imagery. So it is a picture. It's a movie that we're seeing in our mind. And it's actually stimulating our visual cortex.
Gotcha.
We're not using the receptors. But the CPU is still running.
Gotcha.
So that's our sense of sight. But we have at least 4 other senses. Smell, taste, hearing, and touch. So what we want to do is incorporate as many of those in this visualization as possible. So let's just say we're in your weight room, and we are going to visualize ourselves lifting. So we can see ourselves doing it. But let's say, what do we hear? What do we hear in the weight room?
The music or teammates or coaches or any of the above.
Even the weights.
The weights clanking,
clanking, all that. Okay, remember that. What do we smell in the weight room?
Probably sweat to some degree.
It's no judgment, just recognizing what we smell. Here's the tough one. What do we taste?
That one's okay. There could be just if they're drinking a sports drink or something like that.
Or sweat.
Or sweat,
Yeah, sure, okay. And these questions are just to make us aware of these things. What do we feel? Touch.
Okay. If you say you're using a squat, for an example, right, you would feel the weight on your back, or the cold iron, the bar, that kind of stuff.
Whatever it is. So whatever we are doing in this visualization, we want to think about, what are we going to feel? What are we going to hear? What are we going to taste, maybe? You don't have to use absolutely all 5 senses, but you want to use at least 3 in this visualization. We're making a very, very unique movie here. And when we do this, and we play it and play it and play it regularly, we, like I said, when we see it in our mind, our visual cortex lights up. When we hear it, our auditory cortex does. When we smell it, our olfactory senses light up. Okay? If we're experiencing it, our brain is experiencing it. It's making a differentiation of what the input is. Hey, we could just be creating it in our mind. When we use these all together in this visualization, our central nervous system believes that it's happening.
Okay.
Central nervous system actually believes that it's happening.
Okay.
So we might be injured and are worried that we're losing our edge at a particular skill because we're on the IR.
Yeah.
We can actually visualize that skill and maintain it.
Gotcha.
Our nervous system believes that it's happening.
Wow. Okay.
In the same way that we talked about cross-task facilitation, playing the guitar and catching an ice hockey puck.
Wow.
It's what's going on in the nervous system. Okay? So our visualization can impact our skill level.
Okay.
Here's an even freakier part.
Yeah.
If we're on the IR, let's say we have a torn knee meniscus.
Okay.
And we're on the IR.
Yeah.
And we visualize that tissue, our knee, hot and red. We feel it. We might even taste blood. It's a buzzing sound. It's hot. It's red. And we see that. And we're visualizing it turn into a bright pink. It's nice and cool. It's that buzzing sound is turning into a nice, soft note. The taste in our mouth is going from bitter to sweet. This is our visualization of our knee meniscus. There's some evidence that healing is increased.
Really? Okay.
This is
this is something else.
It's wild stuff.
Yeah.
It's the power of our mind. It's the power of the brain.
Okay.
So visualization and imagery can even have these effects. For simple performance before a game, I work with my athletes. They sit in their stall in the room. They close their eyes. They've already designed their imagery. They go through it. Here's an example. I had a client that came to me, he's an ice hockey goalie. I work with so many. Came, said, Coach, can I talk to you on the side here alone? Didn't want anyone else to hear it. Sure. I've got a problem. The first goal of the last few games is the first shot is going in. And I'm afraid it's becoming a tendency. What can we do? I'm like, oh man, the first shot is going in. I'm thinking, well, maybe he's not getting enough warm-up time on the ice, but I can't change that.
Yeah.
But it's the first shot. The first shot is going in. This is the big challenge for me, these questions like this.
Yeah.
Here's what we did. Well, we have to make you stop the first shot. So we're going to create a visualization of the game starting. The other team comes into your zone, takes a shot, the first shot. Always stop it. You always stop it.
Yeah.
This is the visualization. He started doing that. They never scored on the first shot again.
Wow. This is some Jedi stuff.
He's totally mind. His mind, there was something in there saying first shot, first shot. He went up in the visualization. He stopped the first shot. Then he went out onto the ice. And what his nervous system recognized was, this is not the first shot. I've already stopped the first shot.
Yeah.
It's mental rehearsal, but it's very powerful. Very powerful. This guy now is an NCAA Division I athlete.
Wow. Okay. That's crazy. That's some Jedi Star Wars type stuff. It
is. Yeah. But I that's why I'm so passionate about this stuff.
Okay. No, that makes sense. And then kind of coming to the last couple questions, right? I think you touched on a little bit about a routine. So what is your take on like habit formation and daily routines in terms of success for either athletic or any other endeavor?
Yeah. I've given this a lot of thought. I've been a professional athlete. I've had my own routines. And most of my elite athletes have them. Younger athletes are forming them. They ask me, what music should I listen to? What should I do? Stretching, juggling balls, what have you.
Yeah.
Here's what it all comes down to. I want you to do whatever makes you the most comfortable as possible when you step into the game.
Okay.
I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
If that means baking a cake, bake a damn cake.
Okay.
But yes, you want to stretch if that makes you feel better. There's some question now whether or not it's actually helping you, but I'm a physiologist. If you want to juggle, and stimulate your nervous system, great. Bounce balls off a wall, great. Play in hockey, they play something called gutter ball, which is a soccer ball down in the locker room hallway, just kicking a ball to each other.
Okay.
And it's for fun.
Yeah.
They know it's conditioning, and it conditions their nervous system. Great, great, great. Listen to whatever music makes you happy. You don't have to listen to some heavy metal stuff that's going to get you pumped up.
Yeah.
If listening to Kenny G puts you in that golden spot, listen to Kenny G.
Yeah.
It's nobody else's business. Do what makes you the most comfortable.
Okay.
So that when you step into the game, you're totally comfortable. You're there.
Yeah.
And when you are at that state of comfort, with no worry, that's where we're on the edge of flow state.
Okay.
Okay, we're on the edge of it there. We're opening the door to it. Make yourself comfortable.
Okay.
And that might be to eat the right foods you know are going to help you. A lot of times with elite athletes, they want to do and repeat the things that they feel have contributed to past successes, past wins. So they become habitual without it. I always do that. I always wear this pair of shorts when I take a nap or whatever. Fine. If it makes you comfortable, do it. Don't become superstitious about it.
Yeah.
But whatever it is that makes you comfortable, do that. In the end, that's what this is all about.
No, that's a really good answer, right? And so for the last question, so how can people kind of reach out to you? There's a lot of cool ideas in here, a lot of cool concepts. So how can people reach out to you and find out more?
Sure, you can find me on Facebook at Ted Monnich.
Okay.
Also, you can find me on my website at tedmonnich.com.
Okay.
Also, breakawayperformance.com is my private practice.
Okay.
And I'd love to hear from anyone. I love questions, and I love those challenges.
Yeah. No, that was fantastic, Ted. Thank you so much for spending the time out. You know, I'm going to have to dissect this one and apply some of these practices to my life. So this has been amazing. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Juan. Stay in touch, buddy.
Yes, definitely will. All right, talk to you soon. Thanks again for listening. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please like, comment, share, and go ahead and give this podcast a 5-star rating. There are a lot of interesting concepts and a lot of philosophical points that you can take a lot from. I would encourage you to reach out to Coach Monnich and dissect some of these ideas, because the value of what he's saying and the approach that he has to his work can help take your coaching practice to the next level. Once again, thanks for listening, and this is the Gamut of Performance Podcast.